What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Deadboy, and this is Deadboy Gaming. Now, in this video, I have a very important message for our Millennial and Generation Z friends who play the infamous, the famous, the fantastic Dungeons and Dragons. Now, before I go into some of the reasons why you should leave Dungeons & Dragons behind and never look back, I want to tell a little bit of a story that'll become clear shortly. When I was a kid, I was a huge New York Yankees fan. I loved all the stories of Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio and Phil Rizzuto, and when I was in my early 20s, I actually had the opportunity to visit Yankee Stadium. And my initial reaction when I got there was, so this is it? The place looked like this gigantic, ugly tin box in the middle of the Bronx, and it was an absolute eyesore. I was shocked. But when I got into the bleachers and started watching the game, I noticed that there was an undeniable aura about the place. There was this electricity, this feeling of, if you stopped and looked hard enough out into right field, you could still see the ghost of Mickey Mantle making a basket catch, throwing somebody out at home. See Babe Ruth absolutely smashing one into orbit. There was just this sense of the place being alive in history and being wrapped up in something special. Now, a couple years after that, when the new Yankee Stadium was built, I went to the new ballpark, and it felt like the entire place was dipped in glass and plastic. It was beautiful, everything was new and shiny and expensive, but it felt so empty. It felt like a celebration, or it felt like a temple to what was once there, rather than what is there. All of that substance that I felt, all of that magic that you got wrapped up in, is just gone. And that, my friends, is exactly what the issue is with Dungeons & Dragons today. Now, I'll start with the sin to end all sins. When Dungeons & Dragons got sold to Wizards of the Coast, I think 100% of us knew that that was the first death rattle of Dungeons & Dragons, and boy, did we end up being correct. I was incorrect in that I thought it would happen a lot sooner. I will give WOTC a little bit of credit. For a while, they were playing a good game. They were putting out fairly good-looking products. I wasn't a huge fan of 5e for reasons that I'll get into, but they were mostly doing things okay. I was pretty happy with the Dungeons & Dragons magic set. It was very flavorful, showcased a lot of what D&D lore, but it also showcased how little magic has to offer Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons did a shitload for Magic, but Magic has done absolutely nothing for D&D, and I stand by that.
You're fucking useless. The lot of you. Working with you has been the lowest point in a disappointing career.
So the issue isn't so much being sold to Wizards of the Coast, but what it was doomed to become once Wizards of the Coast got their tendrils into it. Now, some of you may recall the incident of the Open Gaming License, which was the first shot across the bow and the first FU from WOTC to the fans. OGL, for those of you who don't know, is the Open Gaming License, and it was a thing put into place to allow the community to interact with the source material, to be able to build upon it. This kind of group project that's part of what makes D&D special is the shared storytelling. WOTC decided to get rid of that in the name of the old profit motive. It is a tale as old as time and played out, but capitalism just came for your game. Not long after the Open Gaming License debacle, Hasbro decided to take a double dip in shit when they went on record during a shareholder meeting to talk about how Dungeons & Dragons is an under-monetized commodity. Now, there is nothing wrong with making money. I am a huge critic of capitalism. I absolutely detest it, but I get that it is within a company's rights to want to make money on the product. Nobody will begrudge them that. The problem is when your greed becomes so forthright, so shameless, such a slap in the face to gamers, it's like, when do you just not take it anymore?
Yeah, I know you're lying, but you sound excited, and you know that I know that you lying, oh girl.
And the last reason that older gamers like us are encouraging you to leave Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as it heads into a new edition that we do not need, that is purely a money grab, is the fact that it is just not that good a game. I don't know how many of you were lucky enough to play Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or as us old school folks call it, AD&D. Now this was a superior game on every level. One of the things 5th edition tried to do, and it was a good idea in retrospect, was to try to simplify, to pare down, and to make the game more accessible to folks. And I guess in a lot of ways it did. The problem is that within that translation, the game lost its soul. What it feels like to me, and what a lot of older folks who are into D&D who I interviewed for this video would talk about, how it just feels like a character that you're playing is a progression of combat abilities and not a flesh and blood character. Some of that is a result of the modules that D&D is putting out. They are brightly colored, they're dipped in glass, but they're soulless. I've played through several, including a Strahd one I was really excited about, and it was that feeling I had at the new Yankee Stadium. It was pretty, it was well produced, but it was just soulless and empty. Now, the first alternative to Dungeons & Dragons I want to put out is the most direct, pound-for-pound replacement that you can find. Pathfinder. Now, for all the reasons that I mentioned that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are absolutely horrible companies, Paizo is everything that is the opposite of that. Paizo has been fantastic. Anytime that I need customer service or input or new products, fresh ideas, they've actually been playing leader to Dungeons & Dragons for quite a long time now. There's a little bit of irony in that, since Pathfinder is essentially Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D 3.5, lovingly curated, added to, and cared for over the years. They've got a new version now. I haven't played it, but I had nothing but fun playing Pathfinder, and anytime I shopped Paizo, anytime I saw them at cons, they're just cooler. All of that spirit, all of that excitement, all of that flavor that D&D used to have, Paizo has still managed to hang on to. And they have a really cute goblin little mascot that's adorable. I'll have to put Paizo.com in the comments. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Now, the second big alternative to Dungeons & Dragons is quite different than Dungeons & Dragons. I'm talking about Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Now, this is a game that's been around a long time and gets overlooked a little bit because of it. So what's different about Call of Cthulhu from Dungeons & Dragons is the theme, where Dungeons & Dragons is wizards and dragons and magic spells and clerics and all of that. Cthulhu takes a much darker tone. A lot of the scenarios that you'll run into are 1920s, 1930s, Prohibition era, horror episodes, essentially. For those of you who are familiar with the works of H.P. Lovecraft, horrible person, great author, there are mysteries that you'll be looking to solve about the nature of the universe and the old gods and the absolute insignificance of the human. Now, a couple of things that are really cool about it are, one, it uses a percentile-based system. So where D&D and Pathfinder are D20 based, anytime you need a test to do X, Y, or Z, you huck the D20, stuff happens. In Call of Cthulhu, you use both of your D10s, so your percentile dice. So you'll have a check for strength. Let's say I have a 60 strength and I'm attempting to break down a door. I roll my percentage dice, I roll a 55, you're looking for your target number and under. So 55 would be a success. Pretty cool, right? Now, another layer to this percentile dice system is that there are levels of success. So, whereas if you're aiming to hit an armor class, I need a 17 to hit. Okay, that's one thing. You hit or you miss, you crit. In Call of Cthulhu, the number that you roll can count for a success, a double success, or a critical success. It'll be easier to show than to tell, but that is built into the system, and it is really, really cool. A third thing that I'm absolutely in love with Call of Cthulhu is the luck system. Now, this is probably the most ingenious thing I've heard of in any RPG, full stop, so check it out. Luck is a finite resource that characters are given, and for the remainder of that scenario or that campaign, you are able to use luck on a one-to-one basis for a die roll. So in that world before where I said you need to bust a door open and I have a strength of 60, let's say I rolled a 71, and for whatever reason it's a very, very important roll that I need to do. So I can take 11 luck, changing my 71 to a 60, turning a failure into a success. Now the thing is that luck is a finite resource, so when you've used it all, it's gone. But it is really, really useful, and especially if you save it for a climatic moment, you can really have some cool shit happen. And yeah, I've been a big, big fan. One last huge reason I recommend Call of Cthulhu for newer role-playing game fans is that it lends itself so well to one-off adventures. D&D campaigns are fantastic, but as we get older, it's a rare luxury to have a group that sticks together, that you're able to have those sort of repeat evenings that end in long, memorable campaigns. Call of Cthulhu works just as well as a one-off as it would for a campaign. Actually, I would argue it works better as a one-off. Reason being is that you have done something really well if you are finishing a Call of Cthulhu scenario not dead and not insane. A lot of D&D campaigns I've played are very, well, let's get together with our friends and we're going to go on an adventure and we're going to kill lots of things and we're going to level up and we're going to get loot and it'll be great. Call of Cthulhu, on the other hand, is I just need to live to get out of this building. So very different, but it's cool to get a beginning, a middle, and an end all in one evening. You can bring characters to different one-shots. I think it's elegant as hell. I absolutely adore it. The third game I want to bring up as an idea is one that a lot of people haven't heard of and is a little bit of an offshoot of Call of Cthulhu. I'm talking about the Delta Green role-playing game. What Delta Green does, it is essentially takes the formula of Call of Cthulhu and modernizes it. So to where traditional Call of Cthulhu is like 1920s investigators, so you got the lanterns, you got the crappy little gun that might jam, you got the prohibition and the gangs. Delta Green is a lot more of like secret high-tech operations and helicopter flying and rappelling down buildings and big guns and all of that cinematic stuff. So all of that excitement that D&D might bring in terms of elaborate combats or deep stories for a campaign, those are available in Delta Green that might not fit as well for Call of Cthulhu. So it uses the same percentile system. I'm not sure if it uses the luck system, but I'll tell you what, if it's not built in, I'm adding it. That is an auto-include forever and always for your book. Now, another thing Delta Green does very well is it allows the players a chance to explore more modern, really cool things like hacking, like cloak and dagger, and a lot more military background, fun car chases, big guns, big kabooms. All of that is really, really cool and really, really unique as far as role-playing games I've played, at least. So might be something you're interested in checking out.
Don't be shy, baby, spin that record, baby. Save your soul. Can you feel me? And the service has danced.
Well, there we have it, folks. Those are 3 alternatives to Dungeons & Dragons that you can check out. Now, don't get me wrong, Dungeons & Dragons is undoubtedly the greatest role-playing game to ever exist, but it died and went to hell quite a long time ago. It's just time that the rest of us caught up. So there are better games, companies way more deserving of your entertainment dollar, games that are pushing the envelope, trying new things, not just playing catch-up and trying to grab every dollar that they can. So, hey, tastes are subjective. If you're having fun role-playing and killing orcs ad infinitum and just having a rail of combat abilities as your North Star for character creation, then by all means go ahead. But folks like me can't live with themselves without at least trying to help the kids. So, I appreciate you checking in for another episode. Like, subscribe if you're feeling spicy, and hope to see you next time. Bye.
The beast screams its name, it howls for more. This spawning